This is it. It's the end of our first 30-day story challenge. And when I say that it's the end, what I mean is it's time for us to write the ending of our stories. So the question for me is, how am I going to twist it so that I leave the readers with a big surprise? All right, in the middle of my story, I went through how Nipper had to follow Mageen. She's been captured, she's unconscious, and Nipper has had to be able to stay out of sight, track the agents and her father's head of security without being captured herself. And it's been quite the challenge because all of this has had to be written from the point of view of the dog. On the bright side, it's been a fantastic experience on writing from a non-human point of view. I mean, it really stretched my talents. It really made me think and work extra hard on which senses to use and what phrases to use. And it's good to be able to grow when you're writing. Mageen has been taken aboard one of her father's ships, and we discover that the dog was actually the target all along, that they've only taken Mageen to bring the dog in and make it easier for the dog to be captured, for Nipper to be captured. So surrounded by enemies, how are the two of them going to escape? Now, most stories the purpose of the end of the story is to leave the reader satisfied. And that doesn't always mean a happy ending. There are plenty of movies and books that have tragic endings and are still satisfactory. I've seen plenty, and when I look back, even though it was sad, and I don't want to watch that movie again or read that book again, I think back and I got the message, and I understand that without that sad, tragic ending, that story would not have been as meaningful. Of course, that doesn't mean we have to do that, and I'm not going to do that. I want this story to have a happy ending. An essential purpose for the ending is to wrap up all the story threads. Anything you have introduced during the story needs to be addressed before you can end. One of the benefits of writing short stories is there tend to be few threads that need to be addressed at the end. Novels, on the other hand, have plenty of room to have introduced all sorts of plot threads which you will need to make sure are resolved. In my story, Mageen and Nipper have only encountered Draven and his goons and the espionage team from the beginning of the story that belongs to some other royal corporation. However, they've already been dealt with. That thread is done. I only have the question of what they're going to do with Draven and an indication of what they plan to do next. Since I didn't really focus on what they were doing on this planet, I can get away with a fairly vague and generic direction to wrap up the story. The most important resolution will always be the story question or story goal. In novels, this will tend to be a bigger and more well-defined thing, but for short stories, it can often be as simple as escaping the bad guys. And that's sort of the case with this story. I've introduced the characters and the story world, and an escape from the bad guys leaves me open to write more stories about Mageen and Nipper. However, your story may have more depth to it. You may be exploring a simple question like the tale of the Lady and the Tiger, where a woman's lover is set to choose between two doors. Behind one is a beautiful woman who he will marry. The other door has a tiger. The protagonist knows which door conceals a tiger and tells her lover the door he should open, leaving us to wonder if she told him the truth. Will jealousy win out or true love? Short stories are better if they have this kind of thought-provoking element at the end. A second element that you will want to make sure you have in the story ending is change. Something needs to be different from the beginning of the story because at the heart of all good stories is change. Protagonists often learn from the hardships they encountered. If I ended my story with Mageen and Nipper escaping, but without anything having changed, I've written a rather pointless story. I've decided that the change in my story will be that Mageen decides she will go see her father, but on her terms. And that choice will lead to my surprise. Of course, when I write it, the sequence of events will be reversed. I will write the switch, and then explain it to the reader. This change makes Megine a more likable character. It demonstrates spunk. She is not going the route of so many princesses in hiding stories. Megine has courage and is willing to confront her father, knowing that the only way she will ever be left alone is if she finds a way to convince her father to let her be. Stories are more fun if we deliver something to the reader that they aren't expecting. No cheating. These cannot be out-of-the-blue endings that nobody could anticipate. The story should lead up to the ending and seem logical to the reader. For my story, Megine will use her psionics to trigger a false alarm from the ship. One of my favorite lines from any science fiction movie is at the end of Alien, where the ship is running a countdown until it explodes. You have 30 seconds to reach minimum safe distance. Oh, I love that line. That is something that Nipper can hear, so it's something that I can include. What I can't include is Megine silently ordering the ship to vent steam through the air purification system, giving a visual reinforcement that the ship is in danger of being destroyed. The agents will flee the ship, pushing Megine ahead of them. Then Nipper appears, trips the agents behind Megine, and keeps the rest of them busy so that she can jump back on board the ship. The door shuts and seals, leaving her safe from the security goons. Then the gas disperses and we find Draven is still on board. He has not been fooled by Megine's trick. He has a gun pointed at her. Since Nipper is the point of view character, I will have to be careful to have her portal inside the ship behind Draven. Draven brags how he expected Megine to attempt something like this. Megine will give a pithy response along the lines, "But did you expect this mission to bite you in the butt?" Nipper takes the cue and nips Draven. He drops the gun and Megine recovers it. Megine then explains that Draven need not worry. She plans to go see her father, but on her terms and without any interference from Draven. The story ends with Megine shooting Draven with one of the tranquilizer guns and putting him to sleep. Of course, in order for the readers to know that Megine didn't kill Draven, I'll have to have her say something like, "Enjoy your nap. By the time you wake up, you might be working for me." I'm satisfied with that ending, and I think that my readers will be too. This kind of ending should leave them wanting more, because I've alluded to conflict between Megine and her father, and that the next installment of this series of stories will bring that face to face, and then who knows where it will go from there. All I have to do is make another pass to clean up any clunky phrases, to make sure my grammar's right, that I haven't written anything poorly, and then I can submit it to the Dog Save the King anthology. What about you? What kind of a story did you come up with? And what kind of twist at the end of it have you decided to use? Or maybe you still have questions. Maybe you're still working on that story. I'd love to hear what your story idea was. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the process or the submission. Anything to do with the writing process, yes, let me know, and I will respond in the comments section below. Next month, I have something different planned. It should be fun. Until then, later.